I grew up in a very religious family, and from the time I was very small, I have memories of being in church. And I was in church all the time because this was an evangelical church, so we had church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. Sometimes we had it all through the week because we had revival services. So lots of my childhood memories come from church. And I knew from a really early age that God loved me, that God had a plan for me, that God was with me. And also in church, I can remember the sort of the visuals. I can remember the yellow glass of the windows. And I don't mean stained glass. This was a very poor church. So the glass was colored yellow. And I can remember the whitewashed walls and the cross at the front where they had some light. They put some lights behind the cross, and so it was sort of this fake, glow coming out from the back of the cross, the wooden cross. And I remember sitting there listening to sermon after sermon after sermon and speaker and preacher and whatever, and I would sit there and feel the vinyl plastic of the pew seat cushion, and I would trace these ovals, these modified oval pattern that was in the pew in the vinyl, and I would just trace those as a child over and over and over again. And as I was listening to the different speakers, the evangelist, the pastor, it didn't seem to really matter who it was because I kept hearing the same message. Somebody would come and we would sing 5,000 verses of Just As I Am, and the preacher, evangelist would say, somebody here is struggling with a call to ministry. And I remember even as a child thinking, not me, not me. I'm not going to do that. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it for two pretty big reasons, and they're both related to each other. One is that I never saw someone who looked like me who was standing up there. I never saw a woman in a position of authority or power in the church. Women were pastors' wives, they were pianists, they baked the casseroles. They could be missionaries maybe, but that was not a palatable option either. And the second part of that was that I didn't want anyone telling me what to do with my life. I didn't want a deity telling me what to do with my life. I didn't want a person telling me what to do. After all, as children, we're all told you can be whatever you want to be. Why couldn't I be what I wanted to be? I knew doctors and lawyers and teachers and nurses and all kinds of professionals who served God, went to church, and they weren't in full-time ministry. Why couldn't I do that? So as I grew up, I sort of kept quietly to myself saying not me, but not overtly saying it to God, because that would invite disaster, right? A lightning bolt or something. So I just went through my life. I went through my later childhood and my teenage years, and I just sort of thought, well, maybe God won't notice me. Maybe if I don't say anything and I sort of leave this alone, maybe God will get bored and go away. And so I kept growing up, and I started taking piano lessons, and I started taking voice lessons, and I found that with a little bit of practice, or a lot of practice really, music was something I was pretty good at. And I graduated from high school, and I got a small scholarship to my small denominational college, and I went to college and majored in music. And when I was there, I discovered that I really liked performing, and I was good at it. And I was little, I was cute back then, and I was the perfect ingenue, right? And I loved being in the spotlight. I loved being the star. I loved wearing the great dresses, and I loved being the performer. And it didn't matter whether I was in a show or if I was singing Mozart. I got to wear the dress. I got to be the character. I got to be on. I got to be the star. And so after college, I got my master's degree because I realized I needed some more training, and I kept doing shows, and I went on tour, and I met my husband, and he was in the performing arts, and we had kids, and life was great. We both sort of were pursuing the same kinds of goals, and I kept performing. And in my 30s, early 30s, my husband, there were a lot of layoffs during this time. My husband lost his job and was laid off. And so I realized that with a master's degree and just doing these little gigs and performing, that wasn't really paying the bills, right? So I went back to school and I got a doctorate in music, and I was able to land a job at a small college, which was perfect, right? I get a steady income. I still get to sing. I'm getting invitations to sing more on stage, like stand there, park and bark kind of singing. But Mozart, lots of orchestra, lots of recitals, some musicals, but I'm still the star. I'm still the diva, right? I'm still wearing the dress. And 2 kids come along, and I'm teaching at this college, and to my surprise, at the college, I figure out that there are things about teaching at this college that aren't really having anything to do with being the diva, but that I'm actually good at and that I actually enjoy. And the first one was I was asked to direct the school musical, which this was a small college and we didn't have a drama department. I was the drama department. I was the person who knew the most about doing a musical, and I'd done them before. And to my surprise, I really enjoyed getting a large group of people from the campus community, children of faculty members and community members, and even people that were just sort of loosely associated with the college. And I was able to gather them all together, inspire them, help them see a vision of what the show was going to be like, and then execute that show and direct that show. And that was a surprise. And then the other part of that I found that I was constantly being drawn into, even when I said I didn't want to do it, was students kept coming to me. And students kept saying things like, well, Dr. Rowell, because that's what they call me, Dr. Rowell, I was wondering what you thought about this. Or I was wondering what you thought about that. And this is a Christian college, so they would ask me spiritual questions. They would ask me theological questions. And they would also come in and tell me stuff that they'd done wrong. I like to say that I've heard more bootleg confessions before I was a priest than sacramental confessions that I've heard as a priest. Because students would come in and say, oh, I got drunk last night, which they weren't supposed to be doing. Or I slept with my boyfriend, or I'm gay. Am I going to hell? And they trusted me with that information and those thoughts. And that's not what I wanted to do, right? I kept telling myself that. I didn't want to do that. Like, this is not, I want to be the diva. I want to perform. I'm teaching. But I'm also like, I want to perform. And then an event occurred that cracked open a door that never really closed. One faculty member, my friend Mildred, was having some difficulties in her life, and she was having some health problems and some family problems. Someone in her family had committed suicide, I think, and so she was just really going through a very rough patch. And she asked us as a faculty to lay hands on her and pray for her. And in the evangelical tradition, that's very common. The person sits or kneels, and then everyone comes over and lays hands on him or her. And so that was something I grew up with. That was not a big deal to me. But what happened to me in that moment when she asked us to do that shocked me. Because all of a sudden, it wasn't really a vision, but it was almost as if I had this intense desire to take the oil of anointing, which in the Episcopal Church is a sacrament. You take the oil of anointing and anoint that person with the sacrament of healing. And I knew that was not something that a lay person could do. That was not something that I was supposed to be wanting to do. But the desire was intensely there, seductive almost. And immediately I had the thought, wait a minute, I can't do that. That's not who I am. I'm a college music professor. I'm teaching music, I'm singing. No, that's not me. Not me. One more time, not me. But it didn't go away. And so I couldn't even function. I almost couldn't even see because the desire was so strong. And I was supposed to be over there laying my hands on her, and I was fighting this thing that was happening to me. And thoughts were coming, and I was saying, no, I just got tenure. I just got faculty member of the year. Like, I'm set for life at this college. What am I thinking? And I said, no, not me. But that never went away. And in fact, the thoughts and the feelings and the desires kept coming, and people kept coming to me out of separate places in my life. People who didn't, even if they did know each other, did not know that they were coming to me telling me this, and they would say something like this. They would say, I know you're teaching right now, but what do they call that, a minister in your denomination? What? And I said, a priest. I think you'd be really good at that. And I was like, no, I am not thinking about that. I'm not thinking, that's not, no, I'm a college professor. That's what I'm doing right now. And that kept happening and happening and happening, and other things kept happening. And finally, a priest who was a mentor and a friend looked at me, and he knew what was going on. He said, I know what's going on with you. And I was like, oh, great. And he said, Melanie, you can say no, but God's going to make you miserable. And he just laughed. And so at that point, I started saying yes. And every time a door opened, every time I got an opportunity, every time a fork in the road opened up, I said yes. And I can't say that was a quick, easy, I said yes, and the next day I was a priest. That's not what happened. I said yes, and then 8 years later, which was 2018, I was ordained a priest in the Cathedral of St. Philip by Rob Wright in the Diocese of Atlanta here. So it took a long time, and there were a lot of detours, and there were a lot of obstacles. One very large obstacle, someone who tried to keep me from being ordained. That's another whole side chapter. And so I said yes. And there's a little postscript to this story. Why do you do what you do? About 6 months before I was ordained, I was sitting in my kitchen at seminary working on something, and as one does, I got on Facebook. And I had received a message from a priest who had been in seminary with me a few years before, and it was from Becky McDaniel. And she said, hey, Melanie, I hope you're doing well. I'm here at this school in Atlanta. I have a school chaplaincy. I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but I can't be here another year. I'm going to get married, and so unexpectedly I'm leaving. Do you think you might be interested in school chaplaincy? And immediately the thought was, not me, not me. I'd never been a school chaplain, and all these thoughts started coming like, I've never done this, I don't know how to do this, and then I finally just went, okay, Melanie, how did the not me work out for you last time? So I found myself typing, sure, I'll look into it. And I found myself here a few months later giving a sermon to 320 children. I have to tell you that I've never preached before I got to seminary. I had never preached a children's sermon until I showed up at the chapel over there and preached to 320 kids. Never. I didn't tell that. I told that to Paul at the last time I gave this story, and he was laughing. So, but I had never preached, and I'd certainly never preached to that many people at once. And it was amazing. It was like I was a rock star. I was a priest rock star. I went out there, and kids were on the edge of their seat, and they were raising their hands, and they were like, pick me. And I was amazed. It was beautiful. It was like I never had adults that interested in what I had to say. It was fantastic. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I've dealt with children before. I've directed children's choirs. I've done things like that. I've directed children in musicals, and I've never been a chaplain, but yeah, I'll give it a shot. And so God was able to turn all of my not me's and all of my no's and all of my life experiences into a yes. A yes for priesthood and a yes for holy innocence.